Hey, it is Zennial Gamer here with another RAGE-CARU video because there haven't been enough of them already yet, right guys? I've only done one. I thought that was going to be a one and done for me, but there is one topic I really want to talk about with the RAGE-CARUs. I haven't seen any of the other creators do it yet, and that is how do you build damaged RAGE-CARUs without needing ridiculous, crazy Japanese server endgame runes. So I will tell you, I'm going to walk you through the runes on my team. We're going to talk a little bit in the optimizer. You're going to look at my runes initially. You're going to think those are crazy, ridiculous runes. I will tell you that while they are fairly good runes, they are nothing like the unattainable runes on the Japanese server, and it's because I used one little trick. Not going to leave that hanging in the air for you guys. That little trick is pretty simple. Rage 4 defense runes. The one rune that we've all been selling forever and ever. The most useless seeming rune in the game, right? But a Rage 4 defense rune will allow you to get that 40 crit damage through subs. Because the Icarus do not really need any kind of HP, you can focus on crit rate and crit damage in your subs. They do need some accuracy, but they don't need maybe quite as much accuracy as we all thought in the beginning. And if your doggos do enough damage, they really don't need any kind of speed either. So all of mine are fairly slow. Their accuracy is all in the 30s. My runs are running about 40 something seconds each. And then from an efficiency perspective, my runes are actually fairly low efficiency. On my account, they're some of my lowest efficiency runes. For some people, the number is going to seem high. This is still a late mid-game or beyond team, but I do believe that anybody in late mid-game who's got an MB12 team would be able to match the stats that I've put on these Icarus with at least a couple of weeks of farming, probably less. Ultimately, all you really need to do is get a few of those key rage defense percent runes to drop, and then you should be able to build your team from there. So we're going to take a look at my stats, then we're going to go look in the optimizer at how you would actually find the best builds for each of your Icarus. We're going to talk about a couple of other little tricks. Okay, so first we are going to look at, this is actually the fastest of my three Icarus. He's also the hardest hitting. It's just the way the runes broke out. But he is the fastest at 160, and I am going to tell you guys he doesn't need to be anywhere near this fast. Now, I did a video before. I told you guys you needed 84 speed. That was based off the math worked out by the original developer of this team. He did a video saying the same thing. So let me explain that a little bit further. The 84 speed allows you to take 16 turns before the dragon moves. However, if you kill the dragon in 14 turns, then you don't need to take 16 turns. So I don't have the exact numbers of where you would kill the dragon, and honestly there's going to be a little bit of RNG variation in there. As you can see, my crit rate is 79. He's my highest crit rate, so sometimes you miss a crit, sometimes you don't defense break early, and so if you're building this kind of RAGE-CARU version of the team, then you are going to take a hit from the dragon from time to time. Because the Icarus are built in defense, it's not going to matter. The dragon won't do anything to them. But for your Vertihile, you will want to make sure he has enough effective HP, which is the balance of HP and defense, to take that one hit. And that's all you will ever take, and that's just when RNG goes against you. Maybe if you've got better runes than me and you get into a higher damage build, you'll never even take that one hit. Now, let's take a look right here. You guys will see 2321 is the defense number that I have. Now, I do have max defense towers, so I just want to point out, for example, if you have level 5 defense towers, you will need an additional 10% defense in your runes. But before we look at this guy's runes, because he does have one really strong rune, I want to look at this guy's runes, which is my other damage dealing Icarus. He's plus 32 speed, just a touch lower crit rate, but a good chunk lower crit damage. But I want to show you his slots 3 and 5. So the slot 5 is 19% defense. The slot 3 is 23% defense. I'm only using one determination set in this entire team. So I'm getting 8% added defense from the determination set. And then having a max tower, again, compared to somebody with a level 5 defense tower, I get an extra 10%. So let's say you have no determination sets and you have a level 5 tower. What's that mean? It means you need an additional 18% defense, which means basically you could have 31 defense on this rune, and you could have 28 defense on this rune, which is possible on a blue rune. Now, granted, that's a rare blue rune. It's a, it's a blue rune with a double max roll and then a max hero grind, but I mean, it's reachable on a blue rune, right? It's not unattainable. Now, I do have a guard set here, so that's giving me an extra 15% defense as well. But even so, to me, I believe these numbers are very attainable, and the key to it is by I'm basically using triple rage defense runes, and you can see I have gemmed and grinded defense onto each of these. So you don't really have to memorize all these numbers. What you do have to take away from that is pretty much just that it's very, very attainable. It's not as intimidatingly hard as some people think, and the key again is we're getting 40 crit damage from our set bonus right here. So this is, one of the biggest sets you can. But the other key is that these runes right here, we don't need any HP. We really don't need any speed. You have to have one monster on your team, and only one, that has a combat speed of 169 or higher. So a combat speed is your speed after towers and speed leads, right? Now we're using the Vertihile speed lead. So the Icarus is 137 speed before your speed tower. If you have a max speed tower, that means he's actually at 153 speed with no speed on his runes whatsoever, so he needs plus 16 or plus 17 speed. That's it. And you only need one monster on the team even to be that fast in order to get your Vertihile moving. Once the Vertihile goes and the attack bar boosts. Now, of course, the slower you are, the fewer turns you're going to take, so the more damage you need. So there is a little bit of a balance there, but ultimately the point is you don't need a lot of speed. You don't need any HP whatsoever. Your target should be 30 to 35 accuracy on each monster. If you can get an accuracy set on your Vertihile, that's going to help a little bit, but I will tell you, I've tested my Verti with and without the accuracy set, and I noticed virtually no difference in the speed. All three of my Icarus are in that 30 to 40%, at 35 to 40% accuracy range. So that would be about your target. Get that 35% level. There's somebody worked out the math where if you're over 30%, you're going to miss defense break like less than 1% of the time or something like that. Obviously, you want as much crit rate as you can. More so than the crit damage or the attack, really, is that crit rate. You're getting a 15% crit rate bonus from attribute advantage. So get as much crit rate as you can. Do not forget that these guys scale off of attack, not defense. So you want to get them as much attack as you can. And then after that, we get the crit damage. And again, remember, I'm in Rage, so all this crit damage is coming through subs and set bonus because I'm using a slot 4 defense rune. That's the biggest key to making these builds. Now, this is my one that is not in the biggest offensive build, and he's the one that's carrying that determination set for me. I've also got him in a fight set. So the one extra fight set just helps my little bit of damage out. If you don't have the fight runes, that's fine. If you want to do double determination, then that might help you do beefier attack builds on the other Icarus. So this guy's going to be very flexible for you. You can build him in whichever way you want. This is the setup that I've got right now. It's running 44 seconds. Now, my Vertihile is big, so I do believe that all of these runes are farmable. Like everything I have on the triple Icarus are farmable in a couple to a few weeks in Necro B12, if not less. And the time it takes you to build the 3 doggos, you should be able to get those defense runes to drop because, I mean, legitimately, they can be crap defense runes. All you need is slot 2, 4, 6 defense. I don't care if they're blue runes with garbage on them. You're going to gem on the flat defense, and then hopefully they've got some crit rate or attack or something offensive on them, offensive stat based on them, obviously, but that's it. That's all they need. Like, you're just looking for defense runes with crit rate, crit damage, attack, and then you can gem on the flat defense. And then obviously your slot 1 can just be like whatever, right? Your slot 1, because it's not defense based, you just take the best offensive slot 1 that you can get, something with accuracy, attack, crit rate, whatever the case may be. And then your 3 and your 5, you have to get those runes that do have some defense subs on them. Now, once again, this is a team that's really more for late mid game and beyond, so I am assuming that you guys are already doing some raid. It doesn't have to be BJR5, it could just be R5, but you are going to need some gems and grinds to add the attack damage onto these Icarus. So these are the Vertihile stats right here. Once again, this is the one monster I think a lot of people might not be able to make a set this big. I completely understand that. Just remember that if you've got bigger damage dealing Icarus, you don't need as big of a damage dealing Vertihile. One last thing I want to point out to you guys, I used the Devil and skilled up all 3 Icarus, and I so regret it. It did not change my time at all. Like 0. Like, I have exactly the same average time. Now, I think maybe if I was able to squeeze more damage onto my Icarus, then those skill ups would have mattered. So if your builds are stronger than mine, then maybe the skill ups will matter. But from where I'm at, if your builds are at my level or below, the skill ups didn't do me any good. It was just legitimately a waste of devils on every single Icaru. So I would not recommend skilling them up. Now, transmogrification, a lot of people ask about this. You'll notice that I have one that's not transmogged and two that are transmogged. The one that's not transmogged for me is the one that is not acting first in my group and does the most damage. So this guy actually does a little bit more damage, but he acts first, so the first Icaru to go is going to go on team up. The benefit you get from not transmogrifying one of these guys is that that monster will always act last because the T-Mog is faster. So this way I can assure, or I can improve my odds that the enemy is already defense broken when my big hitter comes, except of course when he's the one leading out the team up. So since this guy leads out the first team up, because he's the fastest, we chose to not transmog the other big damage dealer. If you only have one big damage dealer, then that's the one you don't transmogrify. For the Vertihile, the fastest transmog is the new Halloween transmog. It is not significantly faster. So I really enjoy this transmog. I think it looks really cool. I don't regret having it because I actually bought the transmog package, and so I have it on all the vampires. I think it's a cool animation, but 2 weeks prior I had just used stones to buy the skateboard Vertihile. The skateboard Vertihile is nearly identical in speed. You're talking about a couple of tenths of a second difference overall on your average runtime. So if you already have the skateboard T-Mog and you didn't get the Halloween one, I would recommend sticking with the skateboard one. I don't think there was enough difference in time to justify buying a second Vertihile transmog. But if you don't have a transmog at all, then get the Halloween one because this is the fastest one. Now, for your artifacts, you're going to be valuing two things above and beyond everything else, which is first and foremost damage when dealt by attacking together, because 3 out of every 4 of your attacks will be dealt by attacking together. And then the other thing you're looking for is damage dealt on fire, but keep in mind that some of the monsters in Dragons are element neutral, so damage dealt on fire does not give you as consistent of an overall bonus as damage by attacking together does. So if you look at my artifacts right here, I've got the damage attacking together, damage on fire, and then I've just got 2 other things that just give me a little bit of extra, basically splash damage, just like ignore defense damage on every hit. If you look at this one, once again, we've got skill 1 and skill 2 crit damage, damage dealt by attacking together, additional damage by speed. And if you look at my artifacts on pretty much every one of these guys, it's basically going to be about the same things that I'm looking for. This one, my water defense, or my flat defense water artifacts are probably the ones that I have that are worst on all of them. I just haven't gotten any good ones to drop. So this is, 6% on fire, and that's about it. This one right here, this one's pretty good. 14% damage on fire, but no damage by attacking together. Now, for the Icaru, attack increasing effect does have a little bit of an advantage because once they've gone once, they are self-buffing themselves. So the attack increasing effect will also benefit you once you're self-buffed. But it is still the lowest of your preferences. Again, your most important one, damage attacking together. After that, it's going to be damage dealt on fire. After that, it's going to be skill 1 crit damage, then skill 2 crit damage, and then attack increasing effect. Okay, so next up, I told you guys we would look at how you build the Icaru in the optimizer. Now, you'll see over here, when I loaded him, it auto-filled my current stats of Rage, Blade, Triple Defense. So when you actually put him in, what you want to have is Rage, and then you just want to leave this slot 4 empty. Now, if you happen to have just like a crazy OP defense slot 3 and 5 set, then maybe you can land a crit rate or a crit damage rune in slot 4. So I just leave this blank and let it run everything. Now, what I do is I leave my artifact optimization disabled because that makes it so much slower. So we know we're just going to add 200 defense in. And the way we do that is we come up here and you just put display results, result values with arena towers. So we need, it's 3,300 defense to get the full team up. But assuming you're in a max guild, you're getting an additional 36, you get 5% of the Icaru's base. So the Icaru's base right here is 736, which means you're getting 36 bonus defense. So really what you need is 3,264 defense. And then 200 of that is coming from your artifacts. So what you need is 3,064 defense with your arena towers. That's what you're looking for, just this 3,064 defense. And then the optimizer is going to account for you. So if your tower is level 5, it's going to account for that because we are choosing this display result values with arena towers. Now, I do recommend that you click on use locked runes up here. You want to look at all of your runes. If there's a rune that you choose not to use or a monster that you choose not to use, like let's say I don't want any runes from my Bastet, I can choose exclude monsters over here. But you do want to look at as many possible builds as you can. Now, I would go with use grinds right here. You could simulate the grinds as well. If you know you're going to be running a lot of R5 and you have a couple of weeks to go before you finish the team, then it might be worth you going with the simulate fully grinded runes to look at those runes that are almost there but not quite. But for me, I just go with grinds in inventory. I do allow immemorial grinds. And then again, we've got our rage up here. You can just leave no broken sets if you want to do an in-depth search, or you could leave it with broken sets. Most of the time, you're going to wind up in a Rage Guard. For this particular build that I'm showing you guys right now, most of the time you're going to wind up in Rage Guard. Now, the other thing is I would build one, either Vertihile or Icaru, with a determination set before you run the damage-dealing Icaru. Ideally, you'll have 3 damage-dealing Icaru. You'll have 1 in Rage Determination and the other 2 in Rage whatever. Or you get the determination set on your Vertihile, or, you know, whichever way you go. But I would build whichever monster is going to hold at least 1 determination set for you. I build that one first. So in this case, rather than going Rage, I go just determination. And then if I know that I want to put some other sets on there, and I think I can, I might do, for example, determination fight. Or I might run it as like double determination to see if I can do that build. Now, I come down here, I mark this plus 15, and then I go to damage options. And the day this video is being recorded, this is actually Swar Farm. A lot of you may or may not know that Swar Farm has been down for a couple of days, and the optimizer actually pulls data from Swar Farm, which is creating a bug in the optimizer. It's supposed to be fixed early next week. So once it's fixed, what you would actually do is go to this pull down menu and just click on Scratch, which is the skill 1. But for the purposes of this, all we're doing is looking for a point of reference. So it doesn't actually have to be Scratch. That just populates information for you already. So we're just going to call it a 200% multiplier. I don't know what Scratch is. I don't know the multiplier on it. I could Google it and it would take me 20 seconds. But for argument's sake, we're just going to call it a 200% multiplier. We're going to come down here and we're going to pop in Dragon's B12 boss, Kairos dungeon. You put in your skill ups if you have them. Now, again, the skill ups populate from Swar Farm, so I can't hit the max button. I have to actually type it in myself. I am skilled up, so we'll go 20%. I am going to assume that I have a defense break. I am not going to assume the attack buff. Honestly, none of this stuff really matters. All that matters is that we're comparing how much damage one Icaru does against another. We're not looking for a set damage target here. So whatever you put here is irrelevant. All that matters is that every Icaru is calculated the exact same way. Now, one thing I would put here is average hit with a leader skill of 15 crit rate. What that does is it accounts for the attribute advantage that you have over the dragon, and it tells me what the average hit is instead of the critical hit, so it's going to balance out those builds for me. Then I just go ahead and hit apply, and it's going to go ahead and run every build for me. Now, I did forget to put search depth. We want a really high search depth. If you're in the Optimizer Pro, you can just go like 10,000 and not have any focus stats here whatsoever. If you are not in the Optimizer Pro, this would take you about a month to run, and then you're going to want to put a focus stat of like defense and probably accuracy, and then maybe attack and crit rate, and you'll want to do a search depth of something like 100 or even a little bit less depending on how good your computer is. But if you're in the Optimizer Pro and not the normal Optimizer, then you can just leave that completely open so it searches everything, and then just put in a search depth of like 100,000 so you get every single possible build. And then once again, you just double check everything up here. You hit optimize, and you'll see that I cannot do anything in double determination. So I switch this out to determination fight. I go ahead and hit optimize again. For my second Icaru, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put in this rage build. I'm going to clear out this set 2, and then if you come down here, you just click this more button, it expands out, and I can click 1 determination set. If I've got 2, then I click this again, and it shows me 2. If I take 1 away, then I right click and it will take it away. So this is going to calculate for me already that determination set. Now this bottom section down here, you see really all I've got is 3064 defense right now, because I'm not going to have a ton of builds that way. So I just want to see what my options are. So I go ahead and I hit OK. And you see, it looks like we're going to have a pretty good chunk of builds, I'm not going to lie. but we're going to narrow it down through filters after this. So there you go. We've got about 71,000 builds. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to put in some accuracy. So I'm going to just put it to a 30 accuracy minimum. I hit apply, and this brings me down to 7,100 builds. So we just dropped down, you know, almost 90% of our builds right there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is sort by damage here. My highest damage is 1790. Now again, my actual real damage is much higher than this. I just didn't know the scratch multiplier, but that's okay because we just want point of reference. So I've got the 1790, so I'm going to set a minimum damage of 1600. That just dropped me down to 148 builds, so we're already narrowing things down quite a bit. Now from here, I could actually resort by accuracy and kind of compare the damage levels. So I know my highest possible damage was 1790 and my highest possible accuracy is 40. So I can scroll down this list, and right here, here's a good balance. At 1718, I've got 38 accuracy. Once I pick the build, I just move on and build my next Icarus. Now for your vertihile, you're basically going to do the exact same thing. You're going to put your verti in rage. You're going to do, instead of 3,064 damage, or defense rather, obviously we need a minimum of 100 crit. Now, one little trick with your vertihile is you could search for 94 crit rate because you can always gem some additional crit rate on. So if you search for that 94 crit rate and you want to spend some time with it looking at each of the builds in the runes, you may find a higher hitting build and then you can gem in that last bit of crit rate, but he must have 100 crit rate when you're done. And then if you don't have OP builds, like even I said, my builds right now, I still take the occasional hit from the dragon, a little bit of RNG in there. So if your builds are at my level or lower, then you are going to want to have at least 70 to 75,000 effective HP on your vertihile just to make sure that he doesn't die. But one more trick again, you can actually search him out at 55,000. And for basically what you're going to do is each artifact, if you use an HP or defense-based artifact, each artifact is worth about 70 to 150 effective HP. Somewhere in that range. Depends on the monster's base stat, so it's not exactly. But they're worth a little over 7,000 effective HP on average. So if I search him out at 55,000, let's say I find this crazy OP build with 55,000 effective HP, I could use 2 HP-based artifacts on him to balance that out. At the same time, let's say that the build I find for him has 70,000 effective HP, then I use 2 attack-based artifacts to boost his damage. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility to manipulate your build there. And that's it, guys. I thought this was actually going to be a short video, but there really is a lot to building this team. So hopefully you found this video helpful, guys. The biggest takeaways from this are that your build, I mean, you can see my time on screen, so your build's going to be much faster if you can get your Icarus into rage. You don't need crazy defense subs. If you just use the flat defense on the 246 and you use the defense percentage on the 246, you can get some pretty powerful builds because you don't need the HP, the speed, or like any other stats. Legitimately, all you need is 30 accuracy and then just as much crit rate, crit damage, and attack as you can get through the other subs once you meet your defense minimum. So guys, I hope you find this helpful. As always, I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. Hey guys, if you're still with me to this point, then that means that you probably liked the video, found it entertaining, or even better, both. So please smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below because those things help the channel grow, and more importantly, they show me that the video is useful, and that's the whole reason I do this in the first place.